Learning styles and student success. Sarah was feeling much more comfortable in front of the classroom. She had learned that adult learners wanted to participate, not just listen. During her last class, students shared stories, asked thoughtful questions, and the discussion flowed naturally. But something still bothered her. As she packed up after class, one student approached. "Thank you," he said. "Your stories really helped me understand agency." A few moments later, another student smiled and said, "I actually understood it when you drew that diagram on the whiteboard." Then a third student added, "Honestly, what helped me the most was reading through the buyer-broker agreement line by line." 3 students, the same lesson, 3 completely different reasons for understanding it. David smiled. Welcome to Learning Styles. Not every student learns the same way. Walk into any Arizona real estate classroom and you'll quickly notice something important. Some students are writing detailed notes before you've finished explaining a concept. Others are listening carefully without writing a single word. Some ask to see the actual purchase contract, while others don't fully understand until they begin working through a real transaction example. That doesn't mean one student is smarter than another. It simply means people process information differently. Outstanding instructors recognize these differences and adjust their teaching methods so every student has the opportunity to succeed. Seeing the big picture, visual learners often understand concepts best when they can see them. A timeline showing the purchase process, a flowchart explaining agency relationships, a completed Arizona residential resale real estate purchase contract displayed on the screen. These visual tools often make complicated concepts much easier to understand than words alone. Imagine explaining earnest money using only a lecture. Now imagine displaying the contract, highlighting the earnest money section, and following the money from the buyer to escrow. Suddenly, students can visualize the process. That's learning that sticks. Some students learn best by listening. Other students absorb information through conversation. They enjoy hearing stories from actual transactions. They learn by participating in classroom discussions and asking questions. Sarah noticed that one experienced broker rarely took notes. Instead, he listened carefully, occasionally asking a thoughtful question that sparked discussion throughout the room. David quietly pointed toward him. He's learning every bit as much as the student filling 10 pages of notes. Listening is learning. Discussion is learning. Explaining concepts out loud is learning. Reading, writing, and doing. Many students prefer reading forms, statutes, and course materials before they fully understand a concept. Give these learners an Arizona purchase contract, an agency disclosure form, or a sample disclosure statement, and they'll begin connecting the dots themselves. Others need to do something. Ask them to complete portions of a contract, role play an agency disclosure, review an inspection report, work through a case study involving buyers and sellers. These hands-on learners often gain confidence by applying concepts rather than simply hearing about them. Real estate education naturally lends itself to this style because our profession is built around practical application. One teaching method is never enough. Sarah began noticing something else. Whenever she relied only on PowerPoint, a few students seemed distracted. When she mixed stories, contract examples, classroom discussion, diagrams, and practical exercises together, almost everyone became involved. David explained why. You're no longer teaching to one learning style. You're teaching to the entire classroom. This approach is often called blended instruction. Rather than expecting students to adapt to one teaching method, exceptional instructors vary how information is presented. A short story becomes a discussion. The discussion leads to a contract example. The contract becomes a classroom exercise. Every teaching method reinforces the next, recognizing students who are struggling. One afternoon, Sarah noticed a student becoming unusually quiet. Earlier in class, he had participated often. Now he avoided eye contact and stopped taking notes. During the break, Sarah simply asked, "Is there anything I can explain differently?" The student smiled with relief. "I understand the concepts," he admitted. "I'm just getting lost in the legal terminology." Instead of repeating the definition, Sarah explained the concept using a real Arizona transaction. Within minutes, everything clicked. Here's where many instructors make a mistake. When students struggle, they often repeat the explanation exactly the same way. Exceptional instructors change the explanation. Sometimes, all it takes is one different example to create understanding. Instructor tip: if several students appear confused, don't assume they weren't paying attention. Ask yourself whether you should explain the concept differently. A new story, diagram, contract example, or classroom activity may be all that's needed to help the lesson connect. Teaching every student in the room. As Sarah reflected on the day's class, she realized something important. She hadn't changed the lesson. She had changed the way she presented it. The result was remarkable. More questions, more discussion, more confidence, more learning. Every classroom will include students with different experiences, personalities, and preferred learning styles. Your responsibility isn't to identify one correct teaching method. It's to create an environment where every student has multiple opportunities to understand, participate, and succeed. The best instructors don't teach one way. They teach in ways that reach everyone. Online discussion question 1. Why is it important to use multiple teaching methods when instructing adult learners? Answer. Adult learners process information differently. Some learn best through visual examples, others through discussion, reading, or hands-on activities. Using a variety of instructional methods increases engagement, improves comprehension, and helps more students successfully apply what they have learned. Question 2. How can Arizona real estate forms and contracts be used to improve student understanding? Real estate forms provide practical, real-world examples that connect classroom instruction to everyday practice. Reviewing contracts, disclosures, and agency forms allows students to see how legal concepts are applied during actual transactions, making the material more meaningful and easier to remember. Question 3. What should an instructor do when a student appears to be struggling with the material? Answer. Rather than simply repeating the same explanation, an instructor should present the concept differently. Using stories, visual aids, contract examples, or classroom discussions can help students understand concepts from a new perspective while creating a supportive learning environment.